Have you ever noticed how quickly your attitude determines the direction of your entire day? One negative thought, one discouraging word, or one unexpected problem can cause you to spiral into defeat. The real challenge is not the problem itself, but how your mind interprets and responds to it. If your attitude is weak, every obstacle looks like a mountain. But if your attitude is strong, even a mountain looks like an opportunity. Today, we are going to address the real problem when we talk about developing an unbreakable positive mental attitude. We must first confront the way we see life itself. Your perception is not just how you look at things, it is the filter through which you experience everything. Two people can face the exact same challenge, yet one becomes crushed by it while the other grows stronger through it. The difference is not in the challenge, it is in the perception. The human mind has been designed to interpret meaning, and that meaning becomes the reality we live in. This is why one individual can call a setback the end of the road, while another calls the same situation the beginning of a new chapter. The power of perception is what determines whether we live in defeat or rise in victory. A positive mental attitude does not mean denying the difficulties of life. It does not mean pretending problems do not exist. Instead, it means making a conscious decision to see every situation through the lens of possibility rather than impossibility. When the mind interprets life through negativity, the heart becomes heavy and the spirit loses strength. But when the mind interprets the same situation with faith, with courage, and with hope, suddenly even the most overwhelming challenge becomes an opportunity for growth. This is why your perception is the seedbed of your attitude. Change the way you see, and you change the way you respond. Think about this truth. Your eyes are not what truly see. It is your mind that interprets what your eyes are looking at. A person with a negative perspective can walk into a room full of opportunities and still walk out empty-handed because their mind interprets everything as a threat, a failure, or a limitation. On the other hand, a person with a positive perspective can walk into that same room and immediately identify doors that can open connections that can be made and solutions that can be discovered. Nothing changed in the room. The difference was entirely in perception. The way you perceive life also determines your endurance. If you see every trial as punishment, you will live in frustration. If you see every trial as preparation, you will endure with strength. Many people give up too soon, not because their challenge was too big, but because their perception of the challenge made it unbearable. The weight of a problem is not in its size, but in the way the mind chooses to carry it. When you choose a positive perception, you do not deny the weight of the burden, you simply find a better way to carry it. That choice keeps your attitude unbreakable. Perception also determines whether you become bitter or better. Some people allow their experiences to imprison them in negativity, while others allow the same experiences to train them in wisdom. The very same rejection that makes one person angry for life can make another person motivated to build something greater. The very same loss that makes one individual hopeless can make another individual grateful for what remains and inspired to start again. The facts may be the same, but the outcomes are determined by perception. A positive mental attitude is born when you train your perception to see beyond the surface. You begin to ask different questions. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" you begin to ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of saying, "This is the end," you begin to say, "This could be the beginning of something better." Instead of declaring, "I can't handle this," you begin to affirm, "This is preparing me for something greater." your mind starts to build new pathways of resilience, and your entire being follows in strength. Perception is also tied to vision. Without a clear vision of where you are going, every problem will seem like the end of the road. But when your perception is guided by vision, you realize that obstacles are simply detours, not dead ends. A person with vision sees challenges as temporary interruptions, not permanent realities. This mindset allows you to hold your attitude steady even when the winds of life blow against you. You are no longer tossed by every wave of difficulty because your perception is anchored in a bigger picture. Finally, the power of perception is what enables you to maintain peace in the middle of storms. Life will not always be fair. People will misunderstand you, opportunities may slip away, and circumstances may not always align with your plans. But when your perception is grounded in a positive mental attitude, you develop the ability to stand tall in the midst of uncertainty. You begin to realize that the way you choose to see is more powerful than the situation itself. You can choose to see possibility. You can choose to see growth. You can choose to see opportunity, and that choice keeps your attitude strong no matter what comes your way. If perception is the lens through which you see life, then the mind is the gate that determines what enters and influences that lens. The greatest battles you will ever fight will not be on the outside, but within your own thoughts. Every attitude, whether positive or negative, begins with the content you allow into your mind. Just as a garden will produce whatever seeds are planted in it, your mind will grow whatever thoughts you consistently feed it. If you plant fear, insecurity, and doubt, you will reap discouragement and defeat. But if you plant hope, truth, and possibility, you will reap confidence and strength. Guarding the gate of the mind is therefore essential to building an unbreakable positive mental attitude. Think about the nature of a gate. A gate is not just for decoration. It is a point of access. It decides what comes in and what stays out. In the same way, your mind has a gate, and every thought, every conversation, every piece of information that seeks to enter must be filtered. Many people allow their minds to become open fields where any seed can be thrown in. They watch, listen, and entertain anything without considering its impact. Over time, these unfiltered influences begin to shape their emotions, their choices, and eventually their destiny. To develop an unshakable positive attitude, you must learn to be intentional about what you allow through that mental gate. Consider how powerful words are. Words are not just sounds, they are carriers of influence. When repeated, they create beliefs, and those beliefs determine behavior. If you constantly surround yourself with voices that say you cannot make it, your mind will eventually agree, and your attitude will begin to collapse under the weight of negativity. But if you surround yourself with voices that affirm possibility, resilience, and growth, your mind will begin to align with those truths, and your attitude will remain strong in the face of obstacles. Guarding the gate of your mind means choosing your environment carefully, for your environment is constantly speaking to your thoughts. Guarding the mind also means disciplining your internal dialogue. External words are powerful, but the most powerful words you will ever hear are the ones you speak to yourself. If your inner voice is constantly reminding you of your failures, exaggerating your weaknesses, and rehearsing your fears, then even the most encouraging environment will struggle to keep you uplifted. On the other hand, if your inner dialogue is filled with affirmations of possibility, reminders of your purpose, and declarations of hope, then even in negative environments, your attitude will remain intact. The gate is not just external, it is internal. you must guard what you say to yourself as carefully as what others say to you. Your mental gate must also be guarded against comparison. Comparison is a subtle thief that enters unnoticed but quickly poisons the mind. When you constantly measure your worth, progress, or potential against the lives of others, your attitude becomes fragile. You begin to feel inadequate, jealous, or discouraged, even if your own path is filled with progress. Guarding the gate of the mind means focusing on your unique journey, valuing your process, and resisting the temptation to let someone else's story determine the climate of your thoughts. Comparison weakens attitude, focus strengthens it. Another crucial element of guarding the mind is being careful with the media and content you consume. The mind does not know the difference between imagination and reality when it is constantly fed with images and messages. If the majority of what you consume promotes fear, anger, or hopelessness, your mental atmosphere will eventually reflect the same. But when you consistently feed your mind with wisdom, with inspiration, and with knowledge that builds, that's rather than destroys, your attitude becomes fortified. Just as a body grows strong with the right diet, the mind grows strong with the right information. What you consume daily will either weaken or strengthen your mental resilience. Guarding the gate of the mind also requires an active choice to meditate on truth. A guarded mind is not an empty mind. It is not about shutting everything out. It is about replacing harmful thoughts with empowering ones. You cannot stop a negative thought from knocking at the door, but you can refuse to let it in and instead welcome a thought that uplifts and strengthens. Meditation creates focus, stabilizes attitude by continually rehearsing thoughts of gratitude, purpose, and possibility. You train your mind to default to positivity instead of negativity. Finally, guarding your mind is not a one-time act, but a lifestyle. Just as a gatekeeper does not leave his post unattended, you cannot afford to neglect your thought life. Every day your mind is under attack through circumstances, through voices, through media, and through your own internal struggles. To build an unbreakable positive mental attitude, you must remain vigilant. You must constantly evaluate what you are allowing to influence your thoughts. Redirect what is harmful and nurture what is helpful. The strength of your attitude will always be determined by the strength of your mental gate. One of the greatest forces that sustains a positive mental attitude is gratitude. Gratitude is more than a polite response or a social courtesy. It is a mindset, a perspective, and a discipline. It is the decision to focus on what you have rather than what you lack, to see the good that remains rather than the pain that surrounds you. Gratitude does not remove the challenges of life, but it transforms how you experience them. It shifts your focus away from despair and directs it toward hope, and in doing so, it builds resilience. A person who practices gratitude develops the ability to endure storms without losing joy, to face setbacks without losing perspective, and to rise again even after being knocked down. Gratitude changes the climate of the heart. When you are thankful, you create an atmosphere of positivity inside you that no external circumstance can easily penetrate. Many people wait for perfect conditions to be grateful, but that is not true gratitude. That is convenience. Real gratitude is not dependent on what is happening. It is a choice to recognize value even in the midst of imperfection. When you train yourself to see the blessing in the small things, you strengthen your attitude to withstand the big trials. The person who can say, I am grateful for breath, I am grateful for strength, I am grateful for another chance, is the person who can keep moving forward even when life is not cooperating. Gratitude also acts as a shield against negativity. The mind cannot dwell on bitterness and gratitude at the same time. When you choose gratitude, you disarm the power of complaint, fear, and discouragement. A heart that is filled with thankfulness has no room for despair to take root. Many people collapse under pressure, not because their situation is unbearable, but because they have trained themselves to magnify what is wrong rather than appreciate what is right. Gratitude rebalances the scale. It reminds you that while the storm is real, so is the sunshine, and while the loss is painful, so is the gift of what remains. This perspective keeps your mental attitude, stable in the midst of fluctuation. Gratitude also unlocks creativity and problem solving. A negative mind sees only obstacles, but a grateful mind begins to see opportunities. When you appreciate what you already have, your eyes are open to how you can use it to move forward. Many breakthroughs are born out of a grateful perspective. The individual who says, I may not have everything I want, but I will maximize what I do have, is the one who finds strength in scarcity and progress in limitation. Gratitude fuels innovation because it teaches you to look at your resources differently, to value them, and to use them effectively. This keeps your attitude positive even in seasons of lack. Gratitude is also deeply connected to resilience because it provides energy to the spirit. A grateful person draws strength from every experience. Even pain becomes a teacher, and even failure becomes fuel. Gratitude transforms wounds into wisdom and mistakes into lessons. Instead of draining you, life begins to equip you because every event is viewed as a contributor to your growth. This perspective gives you the stamina to keep going when others quit. Gratitude acts like a renewable source of energy for the soul. It never runs out because there is always something to appreciate, no matter how small. In addition, gratitude strengthens relationships, which are essential for resilience. When you show appreciation for the people in your life, you create an environment of encouragement and support. People are drawn to those who express thankfulness, and that network of positive connections becomes a source of strength during difficult times. On the other hand, a complaining spirit drives people away, leaving you isolated and vulnerable. Gratitude builds bridges, and those bridges help carry you through seasons when your own strength is low. The people who stand by you are often the ones you have learned to appreciate. Finally, gratitude anchors your attitude in hope. Life will always bring uncertainties, but when you cultivate gratitude, you develop the ability to see beyond the immediate. Gratitude reminds you of victories from the past, of blessings you did not expect, and of doors that opened when you thought none existed. These reminders feed your faith for the future. Instead of collapsing under pressure, you begin to believe that if you have come this far, you can go further still. Gratitude keeps your perspective upward and forward, enabling your mental attitude to remain unbreakable in every season. A truly unbreakable positive mental attitude cannot be built on surface level motivation alone. It must be rooted in something deeper than temporary feelings or passing circumstances. That deeper foundation is purpose. Purpose provides the stability that keeps your mindset anchored even when life shakes everything else around you. Without purpose, attitude becomes fragile, easily swayed by the winds of adversity. But when you know why you are here, why you are pursuing what you pursue, and why you must keep going even when the road is difficult, your mental attitude gains strength that cannot be broken by external pressures. Purpose gives meaning to your struggle, clarity to your decisions, and resilience to your spirit. Purpose is the compass of the mind. It directs how you interpret experiences and how you respond to them. A person without a sense of purpose sees every difficulty as pointless every delay as wasted time, and every challenge as an unnecessary burden. But a person who understands their purpose views difficulty as training, delay as preparation, and challenge as sharpening. The external events may be the same, but the inner interpretation changes everything. Attitude is not simply about feeling good. It is about seeing through the lens of purpose. When you align with purpose, you develop an attitude that refuses to be defeated because every circumstance is working toward a larger picture. Purpose also protects you from distraction. Many people lose their positive attitude not because of the weight of trials, but because they become distracted by pursuits that have no lasting meaning. They chase temporary validation, external approval, or shallow success, and when these things do not satisfy, their attitude collapses. Purpose acts like an anchor. It reminds you that your worth and your progress are not determined by fleeting applause, but by fulfilling the assignment for which you were created. When your life is aligned with purpose, your attitude is not easily shaken by comparison, criticism, or failure, because you are not living for surface victories. You are living for something greater. Purpose is also what fuels perseverance. Every journey has moments where quitting seems easier than continuing, when fatigue sets in, when criticism becomes loud, or when progress feels slow. It is purpose that reignites your strength. A person who has no sense of purpose will give up quickly because they see no reason to endure. But a person with a clear sense of purpose can face hardship with resilience because they are not just enduring pain, they are advancing toward destiny. When you know that your struggle has meaning, you find the strength to keep your attitude positive even in the darkest valleys. Aligning with purpose also provides perspective on success and failure. Without purpose, success becomes shallow and failure becomes devastating. But with purpose, success becomes a tool, not an idol, and failure becomes a lesson, not a death sentence. Purpose keeps your mental attitude balanced, preventing pride when things go well and despair when things go wrong. You begin to see both victories and setbacks as necessary parts of the process, shaping you for the future you are meant to walk into. This perspective builds an unbreakable attitude because you are no longer controlled by extremes. You are guided by meaning. Another vital aspect of aligning with purpose is that it produces consistency. Positive attitude is not about a burst of optimism on a good day. It is about maintaining stability over time. Purpose gives you that stability because it becomes your reference point. Every decision, every response, and every action flows from your awareness of who you are and why you are here. Even when emotions fluctuate, purpose remains constant. And that constancy keeps your attitude from crumbling. People who lack purpose often experience unstable attitudes. Enthusiastic today, discouraged tomorrow, because they have no anchor. But when purpose is your foundation, your positivity becomes consistent and enduring. Purpose also ignites passion, and passion sustains joy. An unbreakable attitude is not just about toughness. It is also about joy that cannot be stolen. Purpose fills your work, your relationships, and your daily life with meaning that generates enthusiasm. When you wake up knowing that your life has significance, even small tasks become infused with energy. This inner drive shields your attitude from burnout because you are not simply surviving, you are fulfilling a calling. Joy rooted in purpose cannot be stolen by circumstance because it is not dependent on circumstance, it is dependent on meaning. Ultimately, purpose is the ultimate stabilizer of the mind. When everything else changes, when seasons shift, when people leave, when opportunities close, purpose remains. That awareness allows you to maintain a mental attitude that is not just positive, but unbreakable. You no longer depend on perfect conditions to keep going. You depend on the unshakable knowledge that your life is directed by a reason greater than the obstacles in your way. That alignment keeps you steady, resilient, and unwavering no matter what you face. A positive mental attitude is not something that develops by chance. It is intentionally built, carefully nurtured, and consistently protected. We have seen that the way you perceive life determines how you experience it, and that perception has the power to turn obstacles into opportunities or blessings into burdens. We have seen the importance of guarding the gate of the mind, recognizing that your thoughts are the soil in which your destiny grows, and that you must be vigilant about what you allow to enter and take root. We have discovered that gratitude is more than an emotion. It is a discipline that fuels resilience, strengthens endurance, and transforms pain into progress. And finally, we have understood that true stability comes only when your attitude is aligned with purpose, because purpose anchors you when circumstances shake, fuels perseverance when challenges rise, and fills your life with meaning that nothing external can destroy. When these principles work together, they create a mindset that cannot be easily broken. You begin to live above the fluctuations of emotion, above the distractions of comparison, and above the discouragement of setbacks. Your attitude becomes your greatest weapon, not because it denies reality, but because it interprets reality through strength, hope, and vision. An unbreakable positive mental attitude does not remove life's challenges, but it ensures that those challenges no longer have the power to define you. Instead, you define them, and in doing so, you rise stronger, wiser, and more determined with every step of the journey. The instability of our mindset and discover how to build an unbreakable positive mental attitude that cannot be shaken by circumstances, criticism, or fear.